So, welcome everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which I'm located, the Ngunnawal people of um, uh, the native people of the Canberra area, and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. A lot has happened since our last briefing in December, and we're pleased to connect with you today to provide an update on the progress of creative workplaces. Most importantly, I'm thrilled to be joined by Kate Schaffner, who officially started in the role as Director of Creative Workplaces in January, and you'll hear more from Kate shortly. I'd like to introduce our Auslan interpreters, Natalie Waldmeyer and Tian Watine, and thank you for your great work. Our update will be no more than 30 minutes, after which we'll move into questions. We invite you to add your questions anonymously using the Q&A function, and we'll do our best to answer as many as possible at the end. So let's recap the journey so far. In January 2023, following an incredibly difficult period for the sector, our new National Cultural Policy Revive was launched. Revive recognises artists as both creators and workers. Revive also referenced research reports drawing attention to serious safety, respect and wellbeing issues impacting some creative sectors. Like all workers, artists deserve fair pay and conditions and safe workplaces. And so creative workplaces came to be. We're a new small team within Creative Australia and have a 7-member advisory council. Our role is to promote fair, safe and respectful workplaces for Australian artists, arts workers and arts organisations. From our early consultation, we've learnt more about the challenging experiences and working arrangements of artists and the lack of understanding on how workplace laws apply to the arts and culture sector that's largely made up of sole traders and independent contractors. We also see that there's a lot of good intent and a willingness to do the right thing. However, it's challenging to navigate the complex regulatory framework of state, territory and federal laws. Recognising the significant role of art and culture in society, we have the opportunity to drive meaningful cultural change, to elevate industry standards and inspire positive action and impact beyond the sector. And so the challenge we are faced with is how do we support creative risk and protect our creative workforce from workplace issues or risks whilst making relevant information easy to understand and easy to access. In our first online briefing in December last year, we introduced our foundational priorities and we'll today provide an update on our progress. Those priorities were new online platform delivering at scale resources and information. Secondly, build pathways to referral agencies. Thirdly, fair, safe and respectful framework to support employers. Fourth, stakeholder consultation, and finally, impact evaluation. But first, a brief update on behalf of the Council. We were delighted to welcome Simon Abrahams to the Council last month. Simon brings a wealth of experience as the Creative Director and CEO of Melbourne Fringe and was a co-founder of Theatre Networks Australia. The Council have met twice this year to continue to discuss progress of establishment priorities. This year, the Council's also been briefed by external and internal researchers about significant research reports relating to the sector, including a Wider Lens report and more recently, Creative Australia's Artists as Workers survey. Francesca Cubolo, Executive Director of First Nations Arts and Culture at Creative Australia, also attended the last Council meeting to update the Council on the First Nations First community engagement and consultation that took place earlier in the year. And we've discussed opportunities to work together on some of the actions in the National Cultural Policy Revive. There is continued acknowledgement of the complex nature of the sector and the difficulty of being able to understand it all at the same time. I'll now hand over to Kate Schaffner to provide an update on activities. Thanks, Kate.
Thank you, Kate. So during the briefing in December late last year, Kate announced that Creative Workplaces would be providing information and advice to the sector via an online Creative Workplaces platform. So we've progressed work on the platform. The platform will be a central hub of information and resources for the sector on issues of pay, safety and well-being, alongside examples of best practice and referral information to regulators. People from all corners of the sector can visit the platform to better understand workplace obligations and issues and how workplace laws apply to them. Over the last few months, we've scoped our requirements for the platform, approached the market, and we have very excitingly selected a supplier. The development kicked off a couple of weeks ago, and the discovery and design phase is underway. So accessibility is at the forefront of the design. We're doing a thorough user experience research piece to ensure that the platform is easy and intuitive to use. And this will enable people to self-serve effectively. As Creative Workplaces is a very small team with a very broad scope, we're not able to provide individual advice to people in the sector, but we do plan to integrate a feedback mechanism into the website or platform to ensure that we make ongoing improvements to meet the needs of those people using it. So the information architecture or website structure will be extremely important because of the complex framework of state, territory, and federal workplace laws that apply. Personalisation features will be embedded into the site, which will be key to helping people find the information they need quickly and easily, and also to weed out the information that they don't need. It will be possible to filter based on state and territory, or whether a person is an artist working for themselves, an organisation, or an employee. So in practical terms, this means that individual practicing artists will be able to filter to see different information from arts organisations. Of course, we will make sure that all content is available to everyone, and also that it's very clear for the person using the site which information that they're viewing. This is really important because we know that so many people in the sector wear many hats, and so they may need to filter information differently depending on what the hat they're wearing at the time. So moving now to the content that we'll be putting on the website. So a key section will be on working arrangements in the sector. And the purpose of this is to help people understand how the law sees them as organisations or artists or art workers. There'll be information on artist fees, pay and pricing for those working for themselves and as employees. There'll also be information on non-monetary working terms for contractors and employees. There'll be a big section on safety and respect. This will cover physical and psychosocial safety, cultural competency and safety, bullying, harassment, discrimination, and also information about accessible workplaces and child safety. There'll be another section on ownership, which will include intellectual property and moral rights, and also a section about when work relations end or break down. Lastly, we will have a resource library on the site too. This will include Creative Workplaces' original content and content authored by others where they've given us permission to use it and put it onto our platform. So we've also been busy over the last few months consulting with stakeholders. We've started engaging with peak bodies and registered organisations, including unions and employer associations, and other organisations providing services to artists and art organisations. Given that we're a small team, it's important that we avoid duplicating the work that other organisations are already doing. Through these early consultations, we've identified potential opportunities to collaborate on some of our work. We've also had the opportunity to visit some arts organisations and speak with artists and workers. There have been lots of great examples of organisations and artists doing things really well, or with ideas about how to make workplaces in their subsector better. We've also been able to discuss the most pressing work workplace challenges for artists and organisations, giving us insights about what might be most useful for these people. We're continuing to meet with a range of government organisations and regulators that deliver functions that are related to our remit. So we're busy establishing those referral pathways that Kate foreshadowed back in December. We've made contact with regulators and organisations in relation to safety, working for yourself or as a small business, and workplace relations regulators and tribunals. We've met with about 15 of these organisations so far and briefed them about the challenges of working in creative sectors. And we have so many more of these organisations to contact. And so far, these meetings have been really helpful and extremely positive, and it's clear that there's a big appetite to collaborate and support the creative sector. So we'll continue to consult with people in the sector, but it is really important that we're careful about the way that we do this. It's critical that all of our consultation is trauma-informed, particularly on sensitive issues. One more very important group of stakeholders that we're working with are the state and territory arts organisations. Recently, we've developed an all jurisdictions reference group that met for the first time in May. This group has a representative from each state and territory and will meet on a quarterly basis. The reference group has been established for information sharing and to support a collaborative approach to creative workplaces. We're also really happy to share that several state and territory jurisdictions have also committed to co-invest in creative workplaces from the start of the new financial year. With this additional support from states and territories, we're confident that we can take a nationwide approach to improving the conditions and working environments for artists, workers, and organisations across the sector to create lasting cultural change. We're working with states and territories to plan activities in those jurisdictions and look forward to connecting with more creatives in person as we progress our work. And we're tremendously grateful for the support from and collaboration with our state and territory colleagues. Kate will now give an introduction into some research we're planning.
Thank you, Kate. We are the two Kates. In line with existing reviews and reports, our early consultation does indicate evidence of harassment, bullying and discrimination and unfair pay and conditions. The nature of this kind of information tends to be passed on discreetly, anonymously, and with a sense of urgency, but with insufficient information upon which meaningful action could be taken. A number of existing reviews and reports provide a strong base for some of the issues, but are limited to the examination of specific art forms or parts of the sector. So while there's a wealth of research available, there isn't anything that neatly fits with the full remit of creative workplaces. To improve our understanding of the nature, driver and extent of issues relating to pay, safety and wellbeing, we must build a solid evidence base and obtain a more accurate picture of how these issues are playing out in the sector. This would also provide a baseline against which to measure the impact of our activities that Creative Workplaces undertakes to support the sector in addressing these issues. So we're currently scoping the idea of a sector-wide anonymous survey that would look into the experiences of and responses to discrimination, harassment and bullying, with specific consideration of experiences of racial and religious discrimination, as well as broader issues of unfair pay and conditions and workplace safety and wellbeing. Next update, as was announced as part of Revive, we're working with Support Act to make wellbeing services available to the full sector as well as music. We're excited to work with Support Act to ensure that all Australian artists, art workers and organisations have access to wellbeing services. Support Act is well known for providing mental health and wellbeing services for the music sector. However, as many of you will know, Support Act expanded the reach of its wellbeing helpline service to the entire sector during the pandemic and have continued to do so as part of the recovery. Through this agreement, Support Act will continue to deliver a free counselling service for the sector through the wellbeing helpline. accessible to all artists and workers across all art forms in any state or territory. Support Act's Wellbeing Helpline includes a general line and dedicated lines for First Nations, LGBTQI+, and supervisors and managers, as well as a dedicated line for sexual harassment and any form of sexual abuse. Support Act also provide a range of other prevention, education and training services, for example, mental health first aid and active bystander training. While Support Act's prevention, education and training offerings are currently available to the music sector, over time Support Act will be updating and adapting its suite of programs in order to make them available to the broader sector. Next is talking about an industry-wide fair, safe and respectful framework. So alongside the online platform, we will develop a practical framework to support workers and organisations of all shapes and sizes to achieve fair, safe and respectful workplaces. The Fair, Safe and Respectful framework will assist the sector to develop leading practice and consistency by stepping them through steps they need to take and things they should turn their mind to ensure that they're meeting their workplace obligations. Parts of the sector have already worked collaboratively to establish consistent policy and practice in relation to sexual harassment and other workplace issues. This work will build on that success and seek to achieve as much consistency across the sector as possible on issues of pay, safety and well-being. The framework will be a suite of sector-wide policies on core areas relevant to pay, safety and well-being, including sexual harassment and other sexual misconduct, bullying, discrimination and equality, child safeguarding, managing psychosocial hazards in the workplace, fair pay, and making complaints and dealing with disputes. The framework will be particularly useful for small to medium organisations that don't have in-house HR and artists working for themselves, helping them to navigate the complex regulatory framework. Consultation is critical to the development of the framework, and I will now hand over to Kate Schaffner to walk us through the consultation schedule.
So, to support a shared understanding of workplace obligations in ways that really fit for creative industries, it's essential that we develop this framework in consultation with the sector. We've developed a draft consultation schedule, which we're pleased to share with you today. The schedule indicates monthly webinars on key topics like pay, respect, and safety at work with expert guest speakers. Through the webinars, we will raise awareness about workplace rights and responsibilities and give information and advice to the sector. During the webinars, we will launch discussion papers that relate to that webinar. We will introduce the topic and highlight why it's important, along with providing information about the regulatory framework that applies to the issue. Within the paper, we will also include discussion questions to facilitate online sector consultations. So this is designed to give us a deeper understanding of the diverse workplace issues in the context of the sector and how they might be addressed. The sector consultations will be held the following month online. This allows consideration for the discussion questions well before the consultation. The consultations are a starting point. We expect that some issues may be more relevant to some subsectors than others. We'll be looking for issues of concern that apply across multiple subsectors to work out opportunities for collaboration and also gauge the need for further consultation. Importantly, we're also wanting to understand and hear about good news stories and things that organisations are doing really well. Positive examples from the sector are really important, and we'd like to draw on your knowledge and share the learnings across the sector. We'll be providing more information about how we'll run these consultations in the coming weeks. By raising awareness about workplace rights and responsibilities and working together, our goal is to create meaningful cultural change. So we'll now take a look at the draft consultation schedule for the upcoming year. This is by no means exhaustive. We will cover a range of topics and we anticipate some movement. For example, we may need to accommodate amendments when the Creative Australia Act passes or as new opportunities come to light. So dates will be announced once we've confirmed and locked everything in. So next month, we will be holding a dedicated webinar on Wellbeing with Support Act. In August, we'll explore challenges when working for yourself and launch a discussion paper on artist fees, pay and pricing, with consultation on that to follow in September. In September, our webinar will focus on respect at work. October is National WorkSafe Month, so it seems fitting that we make our focus for that webinar on work health and safety. Being a particularly comprehensive area, we plan to break this up into multiple parts. We've penciled in bullying for November. And moving into 2025, we've left February free as we're planning to launch our Creative Workplaces platform then. And then we'll resume our webinar schedule on key topics from March. So we do welcome your feedback on this draft schedule. That is what we have prepared to update you on today.